It was supposed to be easy. I take ship, ransom, nobody got hurt.
You had $30,000 and a way to Somalia. It wasn't enough. There's gotta be something other than being a fisherman and kidnapping people.
Maybe in America, Irish. Maybe in America.
It's April 1st, 2009. The Maersk Alabama cuts through open water when a small skiff closes in fast, carrying Somali pirates led by Abduwali Muse. They issue a final warning for the ship to stop. When the bridge refuses, gunfire cracks across the hull. Captain Phillips answers with resistance instead of surrender, ordering the deck crew to activate the high-pressure water hoses in an effort to block the approach. Sheets of water arc outward, but the pirates maneuver with precision, scanning for weakness.
Coming in close, Captain.
When one hose slips out of position and leaves a narrow opening, Muse directs his men toward it. First mate, Shane Murphy, rushes to correct the line as Phillips grabs parachute flares, repurposing them as improvised weapons and firing toward the skiff. The pirates respond with live rounds of their own, sending bullets cracking toward the bridge. As the pirates close in fast, Phillips shifts strategy. He orders the crew down to the engine room and instructs Murphy to take command there. As the pirates attempt to secure their ladder against the hull, Phillips initiates evasive maneuvers, turning the massive vessel in tight arcs to shake them off. But the effort only buys little time. The pirates soon manage to hook their ladder onto the ship, and Muse climbs over and boards. Weapon raised, he locks eyes with the captain before firing in his direction. The remaining pirates follow him onto the main deck. Below, the crew funnels into the engine room. Then Phillips alerts them over the radio.
We have been boarded by 4 armed pirates. You know the drill. We stay hidden no matter what. I don't want any hostages. Stick together, and we'll be all right. Good luck.
Down the engine room, Murphy orders the crew to descend further, split into small groups, and conceal themselves behind the large cylinders. The pirates soon reach the bridge and blast through the door. Guns drawn, they force the men to their knees. Muse addresses the captain with controlled detachment, explaining that this is business, not personal, and that no one will be harmed as long as they get paid. He then asks where the ship is from. When he learns it sails under the American flag, his men react with satisfaction. Phillips adds that he is Yankee Irish, and the pirates seize on it, laughing as they nickname him Irish. Afterward, Muse presses for what is on board the ship.
Okay, Irish. What else you carry?
What do you mean?
TV, car?
TV car? No. We just got the
Dollars?
We do. Kenny? Kenny, what do we have in the safe? We got like what, $30,000 in the safe? Yeah, like we got like we have in the safe. We got $30,000.
$30,000? What am I? Do I look like a beggar?
At the same time, the chief engineer shuts down the engines, and the ship falls silent. When the pirates demand an explanation, Phillips tells them the vessel has been pushed too hard and is now broken. Muse rejects the story, warning that no one will be hurt as long as there are no games.
Look at me.
Sure.
Look at me.
Sure.
I'm the captain now.
He then orders the hothead of the group, Najee, to keep his weapon trained on Irish while he attempts to address the mechanical failure. However, he quickly realizes he can't operate the ship with room temperature IQ, so demands to know where the crew is hiding instead. Phillips reaches for his radio and stages a call to the crew, trying to buy time, but Muse rips it from his hand and broadcasts his own message instead. One man will die every minute, and he won't repeat himself. He then instructs Najee to place one of the captured men against the wall and threatens execution. Phillips intervenes, offering himself instead, insisting that he is the captain.
You said you just wanted money. You said this was just business. Is this business? Is this how you do business?
The moment stretches before Muse signals for the hostage to be released. Afterward, he demands a full search of every lock and hold on the ship. Phillips agrees, quietly opening his radio line so the crew can hear they are coming. Afterward, the pirates strip the radio from Phillips, and he leads Captain Skinny and the youngest, Bilal, down into the ship's lower decks. Below, Murphy sends one of his men to kill the emergency generator on the main deck to disorient the intruders. Then, he slips toward the mess hall to retrieve water. On E-deck, Phillips guides the pirates through the passageways, suggesting the crew is likely hiding somewhere in the cargo hold, where there are countless places to disappear. He speaks evenly, attempting to redirect their search, but Muse insists on checking the engine room instead. Phillips argues for a systematic sweep through the cargo decks, yet Muse refuses to be diverted. As they move downward, Phillips detours briefly to the mess for water. In cold storage, carriage. While showing Bilal the space, he spots Murphy concealed in the corner and casually warns Bilal about walking barefoot, noting he could cut himself. After they leave, Murphy quietly instructs the crew to scatter broken glass near the doorway as a welcome for the barefoot pirate. When the group reaches the engine room, Bilal steps onto the shards and cries out instantly. Muse then turns on Phillips, ordering his hands up and declaring he is not a fool before demanding a full search of the room. Above them, Najee and the pirate navigator Elmi remain on the bridge with the 2 hostages. When the crewman Murphy sent reaches the main deck, spotting one of the pirates above, he throws a metal rod to divert his attention, then reaches the generator and shuts it down. The lights suddenly cut out and Muse demands answers, but Phillips claims ignorance and urges him to reconsider this raid. With the power gone and a man injured, he suggests taking the $30,000 from the safe and leaving the ship. Bilal agrees, eager to depart, but Muse stays the course, ordering Bilal to go upstairs with Irish and send Najee down in his place. On the upper deck, Najee is busy taunting the hostages, telling Elmi to shoot if anyone moves. Below, Muse chews cot as he searches, the stimulant sharpening his focus. As soon as he reaches the lower level, a sudden sound breaks the silence and the crew ambushes him. Meanwhile, Phillips and Bilal reach the upper deck amid tightening nerves. Phillips claims there is a sick bay on board and that one of the hostages can treat Bilal's foot injury. That's when a voice comes over the radio. The engine room crew has Muse and proposes a trade for Captain Phillips. Captain Skinny instantly caves, declares he loves America, then instructs Najee to comply with their demands. After handing the radio to Phillips, Najee listens as Phillips proposes using the ship's lifeboat, since the pirate's skiff is gone, and leaving with the $30,000. Najee reacts bitterly, saying $30,000 is nothing and that he wants millions, but the exchange proceeds anyway. Phillips retrieves the cash from the safe and heads toward the lifeboat with the pirates. There, Najee orders Bilal to inspect it. Murphy suddenly emerges from below, heightening the tension, and the pirates demand to see their captain. When he appears, he tells Najee to follow their instructions, and Najee urges him to stay strong. Phillips then outlines the arrangement. Their man is returned, the pirates board the lifeboat, and they are set adrift. Najee refuses, insisting that Phillips remain with them until Muse is safely back. When Phillips and Murphy object, the pirates threaten to kill everyone, forcing Phillips to relent and step into the lifeboat. Inside, he shows Elmi how to operate it as the crew escorts Muse over. When he enters, he locks eyes with Phillips for a brief moment, then signals Najee, who beats the captain down, fires toward the remaining crew to drive them back, and releases the lifeboat into the water. Adrift in open sea, the Pirate King sneers at Irish that they are now alone. Far away aboard the USS Bainbridge, Captain Frank is briefed on the hijacking of the Maersk Alabama, 820 nautical miles west of their position. Armed Somali pirates have taken the ship's captain hostage in a lifeboat and are believed to be heading toward the Somali coast. Orders are given to proceed and intercept. Back on the lifeboat, Captain Skinny and his merry band of pricks attempt to contact a man named Hufan over the radio, but receive no reply. Najee questions why their boss is absent, but Muse insists he is coming. In the back, Bilal groans about his injured leg, but Muse snaps at him to stop complaining, reminding him that he chose to join the raid. Days earlier, Muse had been asleep when a boy roused him. Outside, armed men shouted for the pirates to return to sea. Old Man Hufan had reminded them they captured a ship the week before, but the boss still demands more. If they failed to deliver another vessel for Garad, there would be consequences. On the walk to the water, rival captain Assad warned Muse to stay out of his way. Shortly after, Bilal pleaded to join the mission before offering the pirate captain cot from his sister. When crews were chosen, Muse selected Bilal first, then Elmi as navigator, and finally Najee for strength, despite his being from another village. Afterward, they gathered supplies, reached the mothership, and prepared. There, Assad ordered Elmi to assist his crew, provoking Muse's irritation and underscoring the rivalry between the two captains. Elsewhere, at the port of Salalah in Oman, Phillips arrived aboard the Maersk Alabama. Moving through the vessel, he noted unsecured pirate cages and open engine room doors before reaching the bridge to greet Zorro. Then, they review the route. Departure from Salalah, down the collision corridor to Djibouti, exiting south of Socotra, then alone along the Somali basin toward Mombasa. Gazing at the charted basin, Phillips instructed tightened security for the passage around the Horn of Africa. Lock the cages, secure every door, even on port. Soon after, they fired up the engines and the ship departed, unaware of the pursuit forming offshore. On the mothership, Muse and the other crews watched the radar sweep the horizon, hunting for opportunity. A cluster of vessels lit up the screen, but too many ships mean too many risks, so they hold. Then, Hufan spotted it, a single vessel cutting toward the Somali basin, and a decision was made. Back aboard the Alabama, Phillips received an email from the UK Maritime Trade Office warning of recent pirate attacks and providing an emergency contact. The following day, he initiated security drills, simulating armed men approaching from the starboard beam. The whistle sounded, and Murphy directed the crew to their stations. Alone on the bridge, Phillips noticed 2 radar contacts closing in and called Murphy back. Through binoculars, he confirmed the skiffs and ordered all hands to remain at their stations. This was no drill. He adjusted course 5 degrees to port, then increased speed when the skiffs maintained pursuit. Attempts to reach U.S. maritime authorities went unanswered. The UK MTO advised lockdown procedures, suggesting they were likely fishermen. Meanwhile, Muse and Assad steered their skiffs toward the massive vessel, closing the distance with expectation. Phillips studied the radar and understood the skiffs were armed. He increased speed again as the distance narrowed to a mile. Then, over open radio channels, he staged a call to a U.S. warship, requesting immediate assistance and air support, hoping the pirates were listening in. He added that his crew of 20 were preparing their weapons. The message unsettled Assad, who quickly turned back toward the mothership, while Muse continued forward, closing to half a mile. Phillips drove the engines to their limit, building heavier waves to disrupt the smaller craft. Behind, Muse pushed his skiff just as hard until the engine failed under the strain. From the water, he raised his iPhone toward the towering container ship and briefly locked eyes with Phillips across the distance. That night, Phillips gathered his crew. He told them they had performed well and confirmed that authorities had been notified. When a crewman suggested the pirates might come back, Phillips said the same defensive measures would hold again. They had the speed, height, and water hoses capable of overwhelming small boats. Another man argued they could alter their course and be miles away within hours. But Phillips countered that diverting will only increase the risk of encountering another crew in those waters.
If anybody doesn't like this route between Salalah and Djibouti and Mombasa, come up to my office and we'll sign the paperwork per the union, and you'll be on the first flight home out of Mombasa. Enjoy your coffee. Let's get back to work.
Later, alone, he wrote an email to his wife. He recounted the day in measured terms, but left out any mention of the skiffs and said he would call once they reached port. Elsewhere, aboard the pirate mothership, Assad reports to Hufan that the waves overpowered his hockey, mocking Muse's stalled engine as he speaks. Muse demands Assad's engine in return and calls him a coward. When Assad steps toward him, Muse suddenly strikes him across the head with a metal rod, leaving him bloodied on the deck as control quietly shifts. The following day, Phillips was called back to the bridge as Muse's skiff reappeared on the radar. He ordered the crew to their stations, removed the ship's limiters, and drove the engines to full speed. Muse, now fitted with a replacement engine and much more aura, gave chase at equal pace across the water. Realizing these pirates weren't playing around, Phillips contacted the U.S. Maritime Emergency, reported that they were under attack, and provided exact coordinates, which were relayed into military channels. Soon after, these astronauts will board the vessel and seize the Irishman. Back in the present, Captain Skinny studies Irish and tells him not to be afraid. His boss will speak to the shipping company, he says, and once the insurance man arrives with the big bag of dollars, he will be released. Right then, a ship's horn carries over the water. The Maersk Alabama is following them. Muse laughs at the earlier claim that the ship was disabled and says they may earn more if it returns to Somalia as well. Aboard the ship, Murphy calculates that the pirates could reach land within 36 hours, but they have to maintain pursuit until the military arrives. The next morning, Irish wakes to raised voices as the pirates argue over their dwindling supply of cot. In the stern, Muse counts the cash from the safe and tells Irish his kidnapping is nothing personal, just taxes owed to them. Irish replies that they are in international waters and that the ship was carrying food for starving Africans, including Somalis.
Rich countries like to help Somalis. Big ships come to our water, take all the fish out. What's left for us to fish?
So you're fishermen?
Yeah, we're only fishermen.
Soon after, Irish asks for permission to clean out Bilal's injured foot, and Muse agrees. While tending to him, he asks how old he is and says he is too young for this. Najee orders him to stop talking and snatches a knife from his hand when he attempts to cut the bandage. Above them, a drone circles. On the USS Bainbridge, Captain Frank notes that the lifeboat is now 126 nautical miles off the Somali coast, with a mothership 60 miles away, linked to the warlord Garad. He assesses that if they can draw the pirates into dialogue, they can wear them them down. Inside the lifeboat, Bilal gives Irish some water, but Najee takes it back, declaring it theirs only. Muse tells Najee to stop being an asshole, but Najee insists control must be maintained. Soon after, Muse attempts to reach Hufan again, but receives no response. As the crew tenses up, Phillips suggests opening a hatch for air to steady Najee, but Muse thinks he's just playing tricks on him. That night, Hufan answers, reporting engine trouble and an inability to retrieve them. He then relays Garad's warning. They are not to return without the American captain. Elsewhere, a SEAL commander receives authorization from the White House to use any means necessary to resolve the pirate situation. Afterward, the SEAL team boards a flight bound for the Somali basin. Back in the lifeboat, Irish watches as the pirates start losing it. Elmi pounds the glass with his rifle butt, demanding air, while Bilal cries out in pain and calls the boat hell. Soon after, the water also runs out, but Muse just tells Irish they will have 1 million bottles back home. He then brags about capturing a Greek ship worth $6 million the year before. Irish asks him what he's doing here then, but Muse snaps at him to shut his mouth. Right then, Najee steps forward, threatening Irish and reminding him he has no power. As he continues yelling, Muse intervenes, and the argument escalates. That's when they hear the loud horn of a ship, and the boat rocks as Elmi struggles to maintain control. Not long after, Muse opens the hatch and sees the USS Bainbridge approaching at a close distance. Panic shifts through the cabin. Over the radio, Captain Frank states that he wants Captain Phillips returned safely, and this situation resolved peacefully. But Muse just answers,
"No military action, no military action, no Al-Qaeda. We are just fishermen."
Right then, another voice answers in Somali. He introduces himself as Nemo and makes it clear they want only the captain, not Muse. Muse responds by demanding $10 million. Nemo tells him that such a sum cannot be arranged instantly, but says they will work toward it, offering food and water in the meantime as a gesture of good faith. Muse accepts the supplies but warns that any deception will result in the captain's death. Meanwhile, aboard the Maersk Alabama, soldiers arrive to escort the vessel to Mombasa, assuring the crew that their captain's recovery is being handled. By morning, Muse watches the Maersk Alabama peel away and tells Irish that his crew has left him behind. Irish answers that the Navy is simply clearing the area and urges him to reconsider, explaining that the ships offshore are not here to negotiate. Muse remains convinced that the Americans have no choice but to escort them back to Somalia as long as he holds their captain. Soon after, Nemo approaches in a small boat accompanied by armed personnel. Before any discussion proceeds, Muse demands proof that the hostage is still alive. Phillips is then brought into view. He immediately asks whether his family knows where he is, and Nemo assures him they are being kept informed. Phillips emphasizes that they must know his exact location and calls out that he is in seat 15, the detail logged aboard the Bainbridge. After Nemo tells him they will handle it, the pirates force him back inside, where Najee presses a gun against his neck, warning him not to move. Outside, Muse repeats his demand for $10 million. Nemo explains that such a sum cannot be produced immediately, and instead offers food, water, and medical treatment aboard the Bainbridge. Muse refuses to lower his price and continues to press for payment. As the exchange tightens and voices sharpen across the narrow stretch of water between them, Najee fires a round close to Phillips' head, forcing Muse to slam the hatch shut while Nemo's team pulls back and withdraws. Inside the lifeboat, Muse rebukes Najee for firing the shot, but Najee insists that talk is pointless and that strength is the only language the Americans understand. When Captain Frank radios in, Muse dismisses the gunfire as an accident and passes the radio to Phillips, who reports that a round was fired beside his head. Frank reminds Muse that as the leader, he is responsible for every life aboard and is now placing them in danger, adding that he wants this resolved before anyone gets hurt. Muse answers that he will speak further only once they reach Somalia. They are now just 12 hours from the coast. Later, Muse assures Irish that everything will work out and speaks about going to New York to buy a car once this is over, describing the life he believes is waiting on the other side of the ransom. Najee then notices 2 ships on the horizon and points them out. Phillips sees them as well and starts freaking out that it's all over, warning that the Navy would rather sink the lifeboat than allow him to be taken ashore. He urges Muse to give up, but Muse answers that he has come too far to stop now.
I come too far, Irish. I can't give up. No.
That night, the SEAL team parachutes down into the Somali basin, descending toward the dark water as the operation tightens around the lifeboat. Inside, Irish asks to take a piss, and Muse allows him to step outside. Once there, Irish tells Bilal that salt water will help his injured foot, then suddenly shoves him into the sea and dives in after him, striking out and swimming hard away from the boat. The pirates erupt into confusion and scramble to recover him. From the Bainbridge, personnel spot 2 figures in the water but cannot intervene, uncertain which of them them is the hostage. Shortly after, Najee opens fire at Irish in the water until Muse forces him to stop, warning that killing the captain would doom them all. The lifeboat gains on him as Irish swims from one side to the other, trying to stay out of reach until Muse climbs into the water and seizes him. With Najee covering them, they drag Irish back aboard. Once inside, Najee beats him on the deck like an animal while the others stand by watching until Muse pulls him off and the argument between them resumes. At the same time, SEALs board the Bainbridge as Captain Frank demands surrender over the radio. While a helicopter holds position overhead, he states that they will not be allowed to go any farther. Pressed by Najee to prove they are not bluffing, Muse drags Irish outside and presses a pistol to his head, threatening to kill him if the Navy does not back off. He then fires 2 rounds at the helicopter before heading back. Inside, Najee continues urging immediate action. Muse responds by striking Irish with his gun, then taking the radio and threatening to return him in a body bag before ordering Irish to speak. On the other end, a new voice answers, saying he is there to discuss their money.
I'm the negotiator. I'm the one that's authorized to negotiate with you.
And shoot us, man.
The SEAL commander then addresses each pirate by name and home village, unsettling Muse. He explains that tribal elders are prepared to negotiate, but that any discussion must remain confidential. He proposes towing the lifeboat to an exchange point due to low fuel and incoming weather, and requests that one pirate come aboard to finalize arrangements. Najee immediately calls it an ambush, but with few viable options left, Muse agrees. On the Bainbridge, the SEAL team prepares to deploy. Before leaving the lifeboat, Muse tells his crew to stay strong and keep the Americans out. He then turns to Irish and says it was meant to be simple. Take the ship, collect the ransom, and leave without harm. Irish reminds him that he had $30,000 and a way home. When he asks why that wasn't enough, Muse replies that, like everyone else, he has bosses.
We all got bosses. There's gotta be something other than being a fisherman and kidnapping people.
Maybe in America, Irish. Maybe in America.
Outside, the U.S. Navy calls for visual confirmation of Phillips and secures a tow line to the lifeboat. At the same time, another team fixes a listening device to the hull of the lifeboat. A uniform is passed through the hatch with instructions that Phillips put it on and remain in his exact seat. But the pirates seize the bag before it reaches him. Muse warns that any deception will cost the captain his life. After receiving assurances from the Navy, he boards their boat. Back inside, Elmi tosses the yellow shirt from the bag aside as the Navy repeats that Phillips must stay seated exactly where he is. Once confirmation comes that one Somali has been extracted and the tow line secured, the commander orders high-speed maneuvers. The lifeboat starts jerking forward behind the Bainbridge, dragged into its wake as the sea begins to churn around it. At the same time, Muse is brought aboard and escorted into a hangar where he asks about the elders. But by the look of disappointment across his face, he can already tell he's fucked. Back in the lifeboat, Irish tells Najee that Captain Skinny understands what he is doing and that the money will come. Najee listens without responding, his expression clearly suggesting he has other plans for the American. Outside, snipers shift into position, and a bright light floods the cabin, bleaching the interior and washing out the pirates' vision. The pirates immediately duck, clearly scared of catching strays, then radio the SEAL commander in protest. But he responds that the light is necessary for the tow and instructs them to keep the driver steady in his seat. The line tightens, and the boat lurches again, as rifles outside settle first on Elmi at the helm, while the commander urges his men to acquire the remaining 2 targets. Inside, Irish retrieves the yellow shirt from the floor and pulls it on. When Najee notices, he instructs Bilal to shoot him if he moves again. Meanwhile, the accelerated tow sends up more waves that hammer the small craft. Elmi struggles to hold course as Najee radios the Navy to slow down. In the stern, Irish finds a pen and begins writing a note to his family, clearly sensing what the Navy may be preparing to do. Outside the cabin, the snipers still lack full visual confirmation on all 3 pirates. Bilal quietly urges Irish to stop, warning that Najee will kill them both if he sees him, but he keeps on writing. Najee then demands to speak with Muse, and the commander answers that their captain is safe in the hangar awaiting the elders. When he presses further about the elders' location, there is no response. That's when he notices the note, tears it from Irish's hands, and the 2 men start to brawl. At Elmi's order, Bilal strikes Irish with the butt of his rifle, and Najee calls for rope so they can bind him. With no clear shot available from outside, the commander warns over the radio that harming the hostage will end the deal, but the pirates ignore him. Najee continues beating Irish with his gun while Bilal urges him to stop. The commander responds by ordering increased speed and instructs his snipers to prepare to fire on command. Through the chaos, Irish turns to Bilal and pleads with him to just raise his hands and surrender, reminding him that he is only a boy. But Bilal ignores his warnings and blindfolds him instead. Irish then cries out loud that he loves his family and is sorry he is here with these astronauts and not there with them. The commander calls for full target acquisition as Najee loads his gun with the clear intent to kill him, while Bilal and Elmi protest that the elders will soon arrive and the ransom will be paid. Najee dismisses them, insisting they are idiots and claiming the Americans lied to them. Outside, the snipers secure their sights on Bilal, leaving only Najee without a confirmed lock. As Irish cries that he cannot endure more, Najee aims directly at him. The commander suddenly orders the tow halted. In that instant, all 3 targets are acquired, and shots break the air and the pirates are killed simultaneously. Still blindfolded, the captain yells out loud, asking what just happened, but silence settles over the boat. He manages to loosen the cloth on his eyes and sees the dead bodies around him as he cries out in shock. Aboard the Bainbridge, confirmation comes through that the hostage is safe. Muse is immediately taken down and restrained, asking in disbelief what has happened. Reports follow that the pirates in the lifeboat have been neutralized and that the hostage is now being transferred to the ship. Captain Phillips is brought aboard in visible shock, unable to speak as he is escorted to medical. Captain Skinny, on the other hand, is placed in cuffs and informed that he will be turned over to the United States Department of Justice to face trial in America.
You should, my friend.
Captain Phillips is free. All of your friends are dead. It's over. You're going to America now.
Honestly, given the way he spoke about America and his desire to see New York, it's difficult not to consider the irony of where this journey ultimately led him. In medical, Phillips struggles to respond as the examination begins. Guided through controlled breathing, he tries to answer questions about his head, his words faint and fractured. When asked about the blood covering him, he cries out that it is not his. Lying back on the cot, he asks about his family and is told they know he is safe and that he will be able to call them once he is stabilized. The reassurance slowly begins to register as he breaks down, tears running freely down his face. Captain Phillips returned to Vermont on April 17, 2009, and was reunited with his family. Abduwali Muse was later convicted of piracy and is now serving a 33-year sentence at the Federal Correctional Complex in Indiana. On July 25, 2010, Captain Phillips went back to sea. For anyone interested in how Somali piracy reached the point shown in this film, it didn't begin with ransom demands and international standoffs. After Somalia's central government collapsed in 1991, foreign vessels began fishing illegally in its waters, and reports surfaced of toxic waste dumping along the coast. Some early armed groups described themselves as coastal defense militias, before piracy evolved into a lucrative criminal enterprise. By 2009, ransom taking had become an organized industry, operating far beyond local waters. If you've seen Captain Phillips, share your thoughts on how the film handled that reality. And let me know which movie you'd like me to cover next. Thanks for watching.